Yes, my people, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing good. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be going ahead and giving you guys a trade breakdown on these lovely sells that I caught over here on NAS. Now, I implemented something new within my strategy whilst I took this trade, and that is trading on the 5-second time frame. This is something that I never usually do. Usually, I'm on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 3 minute. However, for this trade over here, I ended up just scaling down even more, and I'm going to go ahead and break this entire trade down, my thought process, why I did what I did, and show you guys how I managed to catch this position over here. The best part about this trade was the fact that I managed to call this live with my students. You guys see my brother Cash was waiting for me to post a trade idea, and you guys see I ended up sending him out, and very shortly after 43k was made. Whilst I sent Outlook, my friend Sahib ended up live trading with the students as well, and he ended up making, I believe, like $12,000 for the day. I'll leave some proof on the screen for you guys because we don't do numbers fake stuff around it. Nevertheless, we're going to go right into this trade breakdown. Now, as always, you guys should know the drill by now. We start off on our higher time frame bias. Now, one of the key things that I implement in my trading strategy is my ability to trade objectively. This means looking at both sides of the market. You guys can see on NAS, we ended up sweeping out these equal lows down here, giving off this inversion fair value gap, tapping back into this bullish fair value gap over here. And a lot of people from here onwards would think, yep, this is amazing. This looks very cleanly bullish. It's clear as day buys again here on the 4-hour time frame, respecting this 4-hour imbalance. Looks like clear as day buy model, right? You can see over here, relatively equal highs. Everyone would be looking for buys. However, I understand one thing in my trading, and that is to remain as objective as possible. Now we've just analyzed it from a buyer's point of view. We want to analyze it from a seller's point of view. The first thing I can see is Wednesday 25th of March, this high never got taken on NAS. Whereas if we go over to YM, you guys could see at the time, YM ended up taking out Wednesday 25th of March's high. So this is a previous weekly, previous daily high, whatever you want to call it, and high time from SMT divergence, right? This is the first indication of a strong reversal. Second thing I also identified was the market tapped into this very strong supply zone, which for some reason it was failing to break past. It was struggling to break past, right? Whenever I see something like this in the market, the first thing it indicates to me is there has not been enough liquidity at the lows taken in order to fuel a reversal back up to the highs. So this is essentially showing to me that sellers are going to probably enter the market temporarily to push the market lower. From this point onwards, if we drop down to the hourly time frame and mark out a Fibonacci tool from this low over here to this high, what is the first thing I can see? I can see that the market has this low over here, which is built as an inducement into a rebalance of this range over here. Again, if we go over to the 4-hour time frame, you guys can see we also have this 4-hour order block right over here, which the market has not tapped into. It came very close to it, however, it didn't tap into it. So this is my first indication that this low over here is weak, right? And it's not time for the market to reverse. It doesn't make sense for the market to reverse. When we swept out these lows over here and we gave a market structure shift, a lot of people would have loved to buy from this fair value gap over here. However, I understood that this whole entire zone over here is a smart money trap. It's a fake out. It's inviting in early traders into the market to go ahead and then take them out. Cool, dropping down to the 5-minute time frame. The first thing I identified going into today, just before New York session, was the fact that London ended up taking out the Asia highs, swept out these relatively equal highs over here, failed to take out the previous daily high, and then sold off. So when I've seen this, I was a bit confused why it didn't come and take out this high, and it was so close to it. So I simply went over to ES, and well and behold, there was an SMT divergence. ES ended up taking out this high, whereas NAS failed to take out this high over here. Placing the SMT divergence gave the market short shift retracement, mitigated this zone of supply over here, and broke lower. Again, if we just zoom out real quick and go back over here, you guys can see something interesting. And this over here is the touch of a 5-minute unmitigated order block that has liquidity induced. You guys can see we came so close to tapping into this order block. However, we failed to tap into it and then we reversed. So this over here is our inducement into our zone over here. This is a key thing I want you guys to look at whenever you're in your trades. Whenever you have a higher time from POI, so in this case it's 4-hour order block, you want to drop down to the lower time frame and try to identify, is there anything within that zone that makes sense for the market to give a reversal from. Here we have the last unmitigated form of supply. You guys can see this form of supply over here has been mitigated. This form of supply over here has been mitigated over here. So this was the last unmitigated zone of supply. And well and behold, you guys can see the market ended up tapping into this, breaking past this structural low, retracing, giving off an inducement. So from now on, I started dropping down to the 1-minute time frame, and what is the first thing I have identified? If we play price action out, you guys can see New York opening ended up making relatively equal lows with this low over here. So we have relatively equal lows resting below. We then started to give a huge move towards the upside, inviting in buyers to trade the market. If we play price action on, you guys can see what was the market doing. The market retraced into this form of demand where buyers would have looked to buy from, and also started to form a trend line of liquidity. And notice this, guys, once we tap this form of demand, we give a quick reaction towards the upside. If we go back, you guys can see a quick reaction. So if we play price action out, you guys can see again what happens. The market continues to build up liquidity, ready for New York Stock Exchange Open, right? The first thing the market done on New York Stock Exchange Open was NAS ended up wicking past the highs, and straight after that, it ended up forming a fair value gap towards the downside. When I saw this, I was a bit confused because my original zone was this order block over here. However, I understood it was still valid to sell, even though my point of interest hasn't been mitigated. Why? Because the market ended up mitigating this form of supply, and again, it is still a premium array. It is still a zone that is inside of a premium point. Another thing as well, notice how Nasdaq ended up taking out this high, the 1:55 p.m. high. Whereas if we go over to ES failed to take out this high. So this is an S&T divergence. From this point onwards, I understood, okay, cool, an imbalance is going to form. And let's just mark out a candle or what it would look like if an imbalance was to form. An imbalance would look something like this over here. Now I understood that, cool, I can take an entry off of the imbalance, but where am I going to place my stop loss? Am I going to place it on this high over here? And if I swing it down to them higher time frame relatively equal lows, which we just marked out, this is still going to be a 1-to-3 risk reward ratio, which isn't bad. However, I know I can get a better risk reward ratio trade that would go ahead and make me a lot more money. So I let the market play out, and you guys can see what did the market do. The market ended up mitigating this form of demand over here, and from this point onwards, I waited for some more structure to form. And here's where I went down to the 15 and the 5-second time frame to identify why we came back up here. And it's very simple. You guys can see we ended up giving a minor inducement of this high over here. Why did we induce? Why did we come back here? Purely to mitigate this unmitigated imbalance over here. Once again, following trails of supply. And from this point onwards, I identified this form of supply, which is where I ended up taking a manual entry, which if you go back over trading view was somewhere like around here. I ended up placing my stop loss on the high, and I went ahead and targeted them relatively equal lows on the higher time frame, which I had just marked out for you guys. So quick overview on the trade. We have higher time frame S&T divergences. We have that lower time frame 5-minute unmitigated order block. We're also inside of a higher time frame order block. The market hasn't given a rebalance and has liquidity induced into a rebalance and a mitigation of a higher time frame POI. The lower time frame, we've just given a rebalance of the most recent range, showing to me that the market is ready to sell. Again, 15-minute imbalance tapped into and respected. So we've got a change of character, pullback, break of structure. We've had our minor inducement. Everything that I've just seen on the higher time frame is also on the lower time frame. So I simply took my entry and I went ahead and read it out to the lows. And you guys can see if we play price action on, Nas absolutely melted. However, if we go back over here, you guys can see I ended up manually cashing out. Why was this? As you guys can see over here on TopStep, I'm currently copy trading 5 accounts and all of them were up 10k. For those of you guys that don't know, with TopStep you can request 5k at a time per account, and I understood that I'm up 10k. The max I can request right now anyway for my payout, which is going to be tomorrow, is 5k. So why am I going to go ahead and make more profits which I can't even cash out? So I simply took that money home. I understood there's no need to be greedy here. I've met the maximum payout that I can withdraw. I'm up 43.5k for the day. I also requested a 10.8k payout with FTMO. So why be greedy? It's essentially a 50k day. Like, take this home and I'll come back next week and I'll carry on requesting more payouts. So that is why I ended up manually cashing out. And if you play price action on, you guys can see that the market did indeed end up hitting my full take profit. Now, yes, I could have made an extra couple more $1,000, which doesn't really benefit me. But nevertheless, full take profit hit. The strategy ended up playing out and an absolutely amazing trade and use of the lower time frame. And again, straight after that, look how the market completely reversed after mitigating my point of interest, which I knew was going to go ahead and reverse from. The outlook that I sent to my students on the NAS sales ended up landing successfully. My boy Sahib live traded and the students banked from that as well. Nevertheless, for those of you guys that are interested in joining this community full of like-minded individuals, access to our market outlooks that we have, and multiple weekly calls which are recorded and uploaded for you to watch over if you do miss, then make sure you guys press the top link that will be in the description. That will take you over to an application-based form which you can fill out to see if we're able to actually help you with your trading. Nevertheless, you guys know the drill by now. For those of you guys that got this far, comment the word palm trees. I'm just curious to see how many of you guys managed to get this far in the video. Nevertheless, it's been your boy 1FX. Take care, my people.